All right, I'm now recording. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my SQL workbench here. If you can't, let me know. This part, by the way, this does not need to be submitted anywhere, but I still recommend typing along with me because, well, basically what I'm doing here is I'm giving you some possible examples for queries to run on your project, which is the last project assignment, and you might just get most of what you need out of this demo. You never know. You might, I mean, everybody's, data is going to be a little bit different and everybody's absolutely different. So maybe you won't get everything, but you might get something. So there will be some overlap here. So the first one that I'm going to mention is like for new accounts and logins, remember that first subquery that we did. So this is okay. The first requirement, run 3 different queries run against your users table. So creating a new user, user login, change password, etc. So the very first thing that we did for the subqueries was, remember that select exists, right? And that would be just to see if there is that particular entry in your database. And it looked like this. Oops. There we go.
Hey, Bispo, can you copy and paste that note on the chat?
Oh, these? Yeah, it is. It's just from the U9 project queries assignment, though. But yeah, sure, I'll be happy to if you want it.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, sorry, I see the comment now, but I often don't see comments because it doesn't give me any kind of notification or anything when someone puts something up there. So it was good to ask. In addition.
Does it not beep for you?
No, it doesn't seem to do anything for me. At
Huh.
least not that I've noticed, at least. Okay, so let's see. We'll do select exists, and then a simple subquery where you're checking. And remember, this is you could just do this with a plain old select statement without using subquery or anything. But what's nice about this is that it just returns a boolean right off the bat. So you just do let's see, you can do a select all, you can do select ID. It doesn't really matter. Select all from users where ID equals 2. Or actually, if you prefer, let's go ahead and do username instead. That makes more sense. So where username equals user 2, right? So let's say someone new comes to your app and they want to sign up for a new account and they say, okay, I want my username to be user 2, right? And then it runs it against the table here, against users, and says, sorry, dude, that already exists. Can't use it. And if you're doing it for a login, let's go ahead and login. There we go. You could do an and clause. Yeah. And user password equals, and then remember you got to do the SHA and whatever you decided on for your password. Something very hard to guess, like password or 1 2 3 4 5, right? So you could do something like this. So select exists, select all from users where username equals blah blah blah, and user password equals blah blah blah, right? Let's see. Okay, it doesn't like it. What am I? Yeah,
No comment between password and 0?
Thank you. Nice job. Kaboom. There it is. And this is a really good candidate for, like, if you wanted to return this as a table, giving this a column alias, because look at that mess of the name of a column. But really, it doesn't matter. This is the only piece of data that you need. So this would be like a simple login SQL query. Very, very simple one. But, for most things, I think.
So he wants to be user 2 and he has his password set to password? Man, this guy's never going to get hacked.
I know, right? Most secure account imaginable. Okay, so there's that one. That's a possible query. So that could be like one of your 3. against, it says 3 different queries run against the users table. See how nice I'm being? I'm like giving you guys this stuff. But of course you might want to pick something different than user2 and just password or something. But anyway, so let's say you wanted to create a script that will change contact info. And the contact info that I have in here, all I have is an email address. That's it. You guys might look a little bit different, but this is going to be a simple update. Users, all right? And what did we do? Change the contact info. So yeah, set email address. Let's see, not two, equals. Set email address equals, and then let's say instead of user2 at users.com, it's going to be user2 at example.com, where either, where actually you have to use an ID. You have to use a key column when you're doing something destructive like update or delete, as you guys might recall. So you can't just say where username is equals user2. You have to do where ID equals 2 or something like that. So just remember that if you're doing this like an update or delete, then you got to run it off of the primary key column. Always test these, right? Test these before submitting them, and that'll help you catch stuff. Either when it throws errors down here. You guys see me catch all kinds of stuff with errors that I get. You guys should do the same thing. I get an awful lot of assignments turned in that have errors in them that could be very quickly and easily fixed just by running the queries yourself and seeing where the errors pop up. Because I'm going to do it as soon as I get it, right? It's like the first thing I'm going to do is try to run your scripts and see if I get errors or not. Okay, anyway, so let's say we want to change password. Okay, we'll do it for user2 again. So this is going to be another update table users set password equals, and we will do SHA2, and this time we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this, and again where ID equals 2, something like that. So this one, it looks exactly the same thing except that we're updating the password instead of the contact info. Changing the password, right? That's something that users might want to be able to do. Okay, so let's see, what order do I want to put them in? Let's just go down the order of the requirements here. So we did 3 different things. So 2 different queries run against your big data table. So let's say I've got let me grab my data table and just take a look at it. This is something you guys should do, right, when trying to figure out what kind of queries to run against it. I also check like your features list and something, right? What do your clients want to be able to do? So I want to be able to select a title. I want to be able to, let's say I want to select all books by one of these guys here. So one of these authors. And they're all different from each other, but I'm going to grab, who do I like? I like Deja Wolf, like Virginia Woolf, but Deja. And that should return the IPSA title. So I'm just going to find all titles by Deja Wolf. And I'm going to need to put in both the first name and the last name. If I just put in the last name, then perhaps in a larger database, I might actually get the results back from Virginia Woolf, right? So this one, let's just go ahead and say select title as, and I'm going to give this a column alias here. Books by Deja, gotta capitalize that, Wolf, from books, of course, where author, let's see, what is it? Yeah, author first name, author last name. Okay, cool. So author last name, we'll do that one first, equals Wolf. And just so we don't get any Virginia Woolf back, we'll do and author first name equals Deja. Deja vu, right? And that is, there we go. We got the one title by Deja Wolf. So that would be a possible query that you run against your big data, something like that, something simple like that. Let's say I want to, let's go ahead and look at this again. Let's start. I've got a number of pages. So let's say I've got a lazy reader, and they want to see only titles that, from books that are less than 300 pages long. So they don't want any 500-page nonsense, right? They want something they can read in a couple of nights. So we'll do this time I won't do the column alias, I don't think, from books, where number of pages is not greater than, I always do that, but less than 300. And I think that's it. Yeah, there we go. Return how many? Less than 10? Yeah, 7 rows. So we got 7 books that are less than 300 pages. I'm leaving out, I forgot about, like, probably the simplest one is just to like search for a particular book by title. So a lot of you guys are doing like trading cards or gaming cards, some other kind of cards. A lot of users are going to want to look up a card by title, right? So that one's going to be simple. Just select, well, no, select title. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. Yeah, let's select a title by the title. Let's say, okay, they want to know how many pages. I'll kind of match it with this other one here. We'll select the number of pages from books by a specific title. And I will use Expedita here. First result here. Oh no, the first book, let's do IPSA. Okay, so select number of pages from books where title equals IPSA. And so, yeah, username the user gets back how many pages are in that. So these are just examples, right? So this is 3 examples of what kinds of queries you might run against your big data. And again, yours will maybe look a little bit different from these, but just this sort of thing, right? And so you only need 2 of those. I've done 3 here. Okay, so that's this guy, a query that will add an entry to your junction table. Okay, so let's take a look at what the junction table looks like. On mine, it's user's books. I've got a user's ID, books ID, and a user rating. So let's say that user 3 has finally deigned to read a book or to throw it onto their reading list here. So it's going to be user's ID 3, and then I can choose any book's ID from 1 to 10. And then probably will not give it a user rating considering how lazy they've been to start with anything. So here we go. We'll just do an insert into user's books. Oh, let's see here. So I got to do, let's see, user's books. Let me take one more look here. This one doesn't even have a primary key. It's just got the 2 foreign keys and this guy here. So I can just do just the 3 values here. So I wouldn't even bother with a column list. I'll just do values. And then it's user 3 and book ID, anything from 1 to 10. So I'm going to say book number 6, and they are not putting in a user rating. So there we go, and cannot add or update a child row a foreign key constraint. Do I not have a user 3? I thought I did. Hang on a second. Click all from users. Oh, I don't. See, I tricked myself again. I thought it was going to go 1, 2, 3, but it's actually 1, 2, 5. So that's actually a really good lesson. So this is the constraint in action. It's not allowing me to insert these values because there is no user 3 in the users table, right? So that is get a little error there. Yeah, it's not working. So I have to actually match this against an existing user ID, and now it should work. There we go. So, and now if I go to select users books, there's the newest entry, user ID number 5. They like book number 6, and they did not do a user rating. Okay, so that is the, let me go ahead and comment these guys out there. This makes more sense to have this. I'll leave this big comment up here, but just so it makes sense sequentially here. So these are the queries to run against the users table that I've done here. Next up is 2 different queries run against your big data table. And so that is starting from here. And then the third one was a query that will add an entry to the junction table. And that's this guy here. And finally, at least one query run against your junction table that includes a column from one other table. So this is where the subquery is coming to that. I know that some of you guys are going to be tempted, oh, I'll just do it as a join. I'll do it as a join. That's a valid technique, and like BISPO won't complain as long as I get the job done. No, I want to see this as a subquery because joins were kind of, I mean, they're perfectly valid, but that's last semester. We're doing subqueries now. So that's what we'll do here. So let me just do one. I think like I was saying, the most common one and the one that most of you will probably want to do is probably the most basic thing that your client users would want to do. They would want to be able to see whatever's in their collection or their card deck or their reading list or whatever, right? That's one of the first things I would want to do in an app like this. So let's go ahead and do this again. This is going to be, I think this is an overlap. I think we did this in the Chapter 7 demo as well, something very close to it. So I'm going to select title. Oh yeah, I remember doing this now, as user 2's reading list or card deck or whatever. From, and title is from books. And instead of like I first, like my fingers wanted to start typing join here, but we'll do it as a subquery. So where ID in, and we're returning a set of things from the junction table that basically run as testing each one of these IDs if it exists within this table that's being returned from the subquery. And inside here, we'll do a select. Let's see, we're doing books here, right? Yeah, we're doing books. So books ID from, and then the junction table is users books. Where users ID equals 2, right? Because it's user 2. And there we go. So it grabs those 3 guys again. So that is, let me bring this one up against, even though you've already seen it. This would be probably the simplest of the subqueries that you would run against your junction table and one other table, something like this. And like I said, it would be probably the first thing that your client users would want to be able to do after logging in. It doesn't have to be this. This is just the simplest example. And you only need one of these. You only need one subquery run against your 2 tables. So this is hopefully something that will get you started on this last assignment here. Like I said, I recommended following along with this. If you'd like, you can also take screenshots if you want me to show you any particular part of it again, so you can screenshot it. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. Any questions about this or about the parameters of the last assignment on our project?
Can you just go over the last one more time?
This guy right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like user 2 logs in, and they want to see all the items that they've collected in their collection, which in my case is the reading list. And so that's where the subquery comes in. First of all, you're selecting titles from the books table, but you only want to select the titles from the books table that are in user 2's reading list, and that's where the subquery comes in. So it's running through titles on books, but what it's going to do is it's going to run through the IDs at the same time and match those up against the selection of books ID from the junction table. So remember the whole thing that I was saying about if things aren't making sense immediately, or if you're having trouble figuring out what to put in there, take that subquery out and run it as its own query at first.
Okay, I get it. The first part I drew a blank, but okay, you're just selecting title and just renaming it to user 2's reading list. The very first part.
Oh, this part, yeah, that's just a column alias.
Okay, cool. For some reason, I don't know, I just drew a blank there. Okay, I get it now.
And then it shows up here, yeah. But you know, it's actually a valid discussion that we launched here, though. So about keeping this in mind, because this will help you write subqueries, is to take this part out and run it separately and see what it returns. So if I just do like the subquery, select books ID from users books, where users ID equals 2, and it returns those 3 books IDs, right? So these are the 3 IDs of the books that are in user 2's collection. So then this is the set that gets returned by the subquery, and the outer query is what it's doing is it's running through the IDs in the books table, the other table, and seeing, okay, which IDs are in this set here that got returned by the subquery? Which IDs in books are in the set 3, 4, and 7? And then it will return the titles of those based on the rest of what we did with the query. So keep that in mind. Do this a lot when you're doing subqueries. Pull out the subquery and run it by itself and see what kind of return that you're getting, that you're matching up against the outer query, so that you can wind up with the titles instead. Okay, good. Other questions? Or anything else that you guys want to see again? Okay, very good. I'm going to stop the recording.